What's up, Mountaineer Nation? My name is Mountaineer Paul, and welcome to Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. This evening, we're having a late edition of Mountaineer Paul Talks Football as we discuss the Neal Brown situation. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show as we discuss the future of the current West Virginia Mountaineers head coach.
This is for Cameron.
What is up? Welcome in, Mountaineer fans, Mountaineer Nation, Big 12 Nation, and all of college football. My name is Mountaineer Paul. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Neal Brown and Shane Lyons are possibly going to be outed before Saturday against the game against the Oklahoma Sooners. Several sources are citing this. Nothing is for sure, but I felt it was my duty, since there are so many people talking about it, to come on here and just have a conversation with you guys about it. Neal Brown, after going 20-24, 1-5 in conference, 3-6 overall, just not where the Mountaineers thought they were supposed to be at this point in the season, and definitely not in year 4. If you'll believe it, there are still Neal Brown apologists out there. They live under rocks, up in trees, but they're around. And some of them say that, is this a Shane Lyons issue more than a Neal Brown issue? Saying that Shane Lyons hasn't given Neal Brown the funding he needs. Things like that. I wonder what you guys think about that. Tell me down below. Do you guys think Neal Brown has that adequate help coaching as far as the type of coaches that he's had around him? Because I know my answer to that. These are all handpicked dudes. Cronyism is a word that's been thrown around. You know, it's just like I would rather win. If it was me, I would rather win with my buddies too. But in business relationships, we know that's typically not how things work. And if you look at the history of Neal Brown and how things have been there, you can look back. You can see that a Jamila Dye doesn't get to stay and Jordan Leslie does. Or maybe a Matt Moore on the offensive line, when it's taken 4 years for this offensive line to see some kind of any jump at all significant. So there have been definite signs of Neal Brown favoring his friends over business associates that were possibly more suited to the role. You look back to Coach Trickett. I mean, there are several instances of this. I'm done, and I've been done. I don't think that's the big shock to anybody to say this. Now, there are some people saying that it could be, and I don't know how this is possible. Neal Brown still may have yet a chance to coach one more game this Saturday against Oklahoma, because we're technically still bowl eligible. Because here's if I can just imagine this playing out behind closed doors, it's like this. Shane Lyons begging the Board of Governors, hey, listen, give him a chance. Give us a chance. If we can win out and go bowl eligible, we can justify this hire for one more year. Because as I've said on other shows, Neal and Shane Lyons are in lockstep with one another. They are joint at the hip, baby. It's like the GM that makes, that trades everything away for that number 1 overall pick. Number 1 overall pick turns out to be Kwame Brown, if anybody remember that, former number 1 overall pick for the Washington Wizards. And so that's what Neal Brown has been for us. He is our Kwame Brown. He was hot. You think about the Blakeney years at Troy. In 2010, between 2010 and 2017, there was nothing at Troy. Neal Brown shows up. All of a sudden, they win. 3 years in a row, double-digit wins. He was hot. He was the guy around town everybody wanted. Except when I look back to that 2019 hiring class, do you know how unlucky we really are, guys, to have landed on Neal Brown? Let me give you the list of coaches that were available in 2019 when we hired Neal Brown. Are you ready for this list? Because I feel like we have to be pretty unlucky not to land on one of these coaches besides Neal Brown. Now, keep in mind, some of these coaches had ties to these universities, so This list, I mean, think of a Mac Brown. He went to North Carolina. He'd already been there before. Or Chris Kleiman, who had Kansas State ties. But you get the picture of what I'm trying to say here. Mac Brown, Chris Kleiman, Scott Satterfield, who's got Louisville 6-3 after a tough start. Hugh Freeze at Liberty was available. Jamie Chadwell, who's built Coastal Carolina into something out of complete nothing. Mike Houston, who has had East Carolina playing really good football. Mike Loxley, who's got Maryland at 6-3, last I checked. Maybe they lost Saturday. But even Loxley has had his share of successes at Maryland. And yet, we hired Neal Brown. I get it. Like I said, he at the time, he was probably the number one guy on this entire list. But he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. How do we get so unlucky, Mountaineer? Let me know. How do you feel about Neal Brown possibly getting to coach another game on a West Virginia University sideline? Does that piss you off? Let me know down in the comments. What about Shane Lyons? How do you feel about him being at the athletic director position for one more game? Does that piss you off? That's really it, guys. Just wanted to update you on the situation. I'm burning the midnight oil just a little bit this evening. It's almost 8 o'clock. Had gotten some intel from a few friends of mine that keep track of the situation. And like I said, there are several people that where there's smoke, there's fire. Neal Brown probably not going to be retained maybe into tomorrow, but certainly not Saturday. And then there are a couple others that are around the same type of circle saying, no, hold on. It's possible yet if they convince that we can still go to a bowl game, that he could still stay to see what happens at Oklahoma, but certainly not past Oklahoma. Who do you guys think would make the best interim coach? I've heard some really great names thrown out there. Jeff Castile as being like the number one option behind closed doors to possibly succeed Neal Brown in an interim position. You hear the name running backs coach Chad Scott, who has done a phenomenal job with the running backs room, maybe the best overall position coach that we've had. Or do they go Graham Harrell, who is obviously still young in this business, could be viewed upon as a good head coaching candidate, and certainly deserves an interview, I would think. Even though the offense hasn't always performed, it's still year one for Graham Harrell. We all know that offenses get better from year one to year two, but we have seen results out of Coach Chad Scott and his running back room. C.J. Donaldson explodes onto the scene this year. But the thinking behind Jeff Castile is you let Jeff Castile do his thing for the rest of the season, and then you can go pick whoever you want, as to where if a Graham Harrell or Chad Scott goes on the run at the end of the year, all of a sudden there's going to be people like in a Coach Stu type situation with Coach Bill Stewart, where there's going to be player support, fan support to keep this guy, and it ends up being a mistake, and then you let somebody like a Hugh Freeze or a Matt Rule or a Jamie Chadwell go. You guys feel like Jeff Castile is a good choice for the interim coach position? Let me know. I'd like to really thank you guys. Like I said there a video ago, we're almost at 300 subscribers. So I really appreciate all the support, guys. This has been really fun and fulfilling to me in my life. I really appreciate you guys. You've treated me so well, so fairly. Really proud to say that I'm somebody that can, in some small way, represent the Mountaineers that we all love and hold dear to our hearts so much. You guys, this is an end to another video with Mountaineer Paul Talks Football. This video is over. Mountaineer Paul is out.
This is for Cameron. Tim Cal.